Okay, I'm going to make this video about factoring when the leading coefficient is not 1, meaning we have something and it's not x squared, it's going to be 2x squared or 3x squared as the first term. Let's go back and figure out, review some things. Now we did something like this. When we factored this is a procedure that we worked on. We look at x squared is going to be x times x. And 16, we had some options. 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 16 and add to 10. And these are the two numbers that do that. So I'm going to put 2 and 8. And since this is a positive, the last one plus 16, these last two numbers must multiply to be positive 16. So they have to be the same sign, either plus, plus, or minus, minus. And since this is minus, it's going to be minus and minus. And that's all we did for that one. We went through very quickly after a lot of practice. Similar thing here. We're going to look for numbers that multiply to get x squared. That's going to be x times x. Now numbers that multiply to 20, but since it's a minus sign, they subtract to get 8. So I have 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and 4 times 5. These are the two numbers that subtract to get 8, so 2 and 10. And since this last thing is a minus, we say that the bigger number has to get that sign. They've got to be different signs, either plus minus or minus plus. And the bigger number is going to get this sign here of minus. So I put a minus here and a plus here, and there's my answer. Okay. Some people just in their head say what numbers multiply to 20 and subtract to get 8 and say 10 and 2, and it works out fine. Now, this next one's a little different because now this first term is not 1. There's a 5 here. We're going to follow similar procedures and do something a little different here. 5x squared is not going to be x times x, but it's going to be 5x times x. In the last two terms, these two numbers from here and here have to multiply to get 24. So that's 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. And some teachers have some algorithms or some procedures that they ask you to go through to find the answer. I'm going to suggest that that's not the way you go, because a lot of people try to do that and they remember that it can be done, but they don't remember what to do, and then they look at a problem like this and say, I don't know what to do. We're going to do a different technique for math. We're used to math having, here's the structure. We do step A, step B, step C, step D, and here's our answer. It's a little different here. We're going to try some things and see if they don't work or see if they do work. Now, what I want you to understand is the last two terms, these two, this one times this one, is going to multiply to get 24. But these are our possibilities. The next thing we're going to say is the middle term comes from these two numbers multiplied together and these two numbers multiplied together. So what I'm going to do is just start trying numbers. And I can try any one. I'm going to right now go with the long method of just trying the first ones, 1 and 24. I put 1 and 24, and that gives me 120x, and this gives me 1x. And these are the two numbers that must multiply to get 43. I'm not looking for numbers that multiply to 24 and add to 43 because this 5 messes things up. When that 5 wasn't there, such as these problems, when this was a 1, I can just say to multiply to 16, add to 10, 2 and 8. Multiply to 20, subtract to 8, 2 and 10. This one's a little different because of this 5, because the 5 times one of those numbers is going to be involved here. So either way, these two numbers, 120 and 1, do not add to be 43. It's not 1 and 24 in that order. So the next thing I'm going to do is switch the order and see if that helps me at all. So now I'm going to say this is 24 here and 1 here. That gives me 5x and 24x. Well, that's a little closer. It's 29x, and this is still 43. So it's not 1 and 24. We've been successful in eliminating that. So 1 and 24 is not a solution. That's kind of what we want to do, see if we can eliminate some of the solutions that they give us. Okay, so it's not 1 and 24. Let's get those out of there. So now let's try 2 and 12. So I'm going to try 2 and I'm going to try 12. And then 5 times 12, that's 60x. 2 times x is 2x. 60 plus 2 is 62, not 43. It's not 2 and 12. Let's switch the order of these. So now I'm going to put a 12 here. and a 2 here, and I say 2 times 5, that's 10x. 12 times 1 is 12x. They add together to be 22x, not 43x. We've eliminated 2 and 12, and then we just work our way through all the numbers. And people get frustrated, but it really doesn't take that long. You just go through them and get it done, and instead of trying to rack your brains about things, we can just figure out these are our possibilities. Let's try 3 and 8. So 5 times 8 is 40x. 3 times x is 3x. They do add to get 43. So those are my correct numbers. The last thing to deal with is the pluses or minuses. Now, since this last number is a plus, 24, it means that this number 3 and this number 8 have to be the same sign, meaning it has to be either positive times a positive to give me a positive 24, or a negative times a negative to give me positive 24. And since this is negative, and this is negative. So that means that this is my final answer for that problem. That's the factored form of this expression. All right, the next one gets a little trickier because we have a 4 here. Now, the first step that most people do is do this. They're going to look like this. This is going to be 2x times 2x. That's our first thought. 18 is 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. So I'm going to try each of those, and I'm going to go a little bit quickly. You just try to follow along. Pause it if you need to. So this would be 1 times 18. These numbers here give me 36x. That's a 3. And this is 2x. 36, this is a plus. 36 plus 2 is 40. It's 38, not 27. It's not 2 and 18. And when I switch these, it really doesn't do a whole lot of difference. What happens is I'm going to try to switch them. Now I'm going to put 18 here and 2 here. It's actually going to be the same numbers, just in a different order. Because when I start to think about it, does that make sense? Well, yeah, since 2 is for both of them, it's going to be the same. Switching them doesn't make a difference. So that doesn't work. 18 and 1, you're out. Now we're going to go to the next one. When we try 2 and 9. 2 and 9, and this gives me 18x and 4x, which makes 22x, not 27x. 2 and 9 doesn't work. If I switch this to be a 9 and a 2, it basically becomes 4x down here and 18x here. Either way, it doesn't work because it's not going to be 27. So that's out. 2 and 9 are out. Now, before we say, well, then it has to be 6 and 3, let's just figure out. First of all, it doesn't have to be anything. It could be something that doesn't factor. Secondly, let's try 6, 3, and 6. So if I put a 3 and a 6, I get 12x and 6x, which is 18x, not 27x. So that doesn't work. Switching the 6 and the 3 gives us the same thing. So that's out. So it's basically none of these three work when this is 2x and 2x. But what we kind of didn't take into account is that it doesn't have to be 2x times 2x. In this problem here, 5, the only thing to multiply to get 5 is 5 times 1. However, 4 can have another. Instead of doing 2x and 2x, I could have changed that part of it to be, let me erase this part here. It could also instead be 4x and 1x. And then we have to go through these numbers again. Okay, I'm going to start, let's start with 2 and 9. I'm going to jump around a little bit. And when you're doing the problems in practice, you should probably start jumping around. 1 and 18 are usually the more difficult ones. I would use those last. Let's try 2 and 9 and see what that gives us. 4 times 9 is 36, so that's 36x. 2 times 1 is 2x. 36 plus 2 is 38, not 27, not 2 and 9. So now we're going to switch them. And we're going to switch the 2 and the 9. And now we're going to put a 9 here and a 2 here. And that gives us 9x and 8x. And that gives us 17, not 27. It's not 2 times 9. That's out. Okay, we're going to try now 3 and 6 and see if that helps us. 3 times 6 is 18 also, so put a 3 and a 6. 4 times 6 is 24. So 24x, 3 times 1 is 3x. 24 plus 3 is 27. So these are the correct numbers. The last thing is a plus, which means it's going to be plus, plus, or minus, minus. That's all. It can't be one of each. Since this is a plus, we know it's going to be plus, plus. So this is our answer, 4x plus 3 times x plus 6. And that's our final answer there. And when we did the FOIL, we're going to get exactly this. Okay, the last problem we're going to do is similar to the first one, but it's a little bit different because this is a minus sign here, which means I'm going to have one negative and one positive. It's a little bit more challenging, but not too hard for us. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say to get 5x squared is going to be 5x times x. And now to get 6, it's going to be either 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. There's not a lot of things. There's not many things to try. We'll try to start with 1 times 6. So I'll say 1 and 6. And this number here is going to be 30x. And this is 1x. And now instead of adding to get 7, they have to subtract to get 7. But even so, 30 minus 1 is 29, not 7. So that's out. So now we're going to go through the next step, which is to switch the x and the y. So now when we switch them, we put the 6 here and the 1 here. This is 5x and this is 6x. Do they subtract to get 7? And the answer is no, they don't. So this one is out. It's not 1 and 6. We figured that out. Then we go to the next one. In the next one, we're going to try 2 and 3. So I put a 2 and a 3. So 15x and 2x. 15 plus 2 is not 7. Excuse me, 15 minus 2 is 13, not 7. So it's not 2 and 3. So we're going to say that didn't work. And so now we're going to switch the 2 and the 3. And we're going to put a 3 here and a 2 here. And this gives us 10x. And this gives us 3x. And those do, in fact, subtract to get 7. So these are the correct numbers. Now, in the past, we said automatically the bigger, because since this is minus, we know one's going to be a minus and one's going to be a plus to get negative 6. Okay, so now I have to decide which one gets the minus and which one gets the plus. And before we said automatically the bigger number, which is 3, gets this sign. And that's, if I did that, what I'm going to look at is I'm going to say this is going to be negative 10x plus 3x, which is negative 7x, not positive 7x. So this is backwards. And well, the reason it's backwards is this. It's not really the bigger of these two numbers that gets this sign. It's the bigger of these two numbers. So this 10x is bigger than 3x. So 10x has to have a negative sign with it, or excuse me, a positive sign with it. And since that's positive already, this would have to be positive to make it positive 10x, which means since this is opposite, that is minus. And I would always check to make sure that works. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 2 is plus 10x. Negative 3 times x is minus 3x. Negative 3 times 2 is minus 6. And when I combine these two together, I get, in fact, this answer right here. So the correct answer is this right here. I'll circle it in green. That's the correct answer right there. 5x minus 3 times x plus 2. Okay. One of the things I just the mentality of factoring these things is that we can find the answer if we just, these are our choices, pick the one that works and keep trying and eliminating things. And if by chance you do eliminate all of them, that just means it doesn't factor, which is also a possibility. Okay, that's it.